Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order the February 9th, 2022 meeting of the Public Safety Committee. It is 7:01 p.m. We do have a quorum present. Our first order of business tonight is adoption of previous meeting minutes from the January 12th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, the committee members all received a copy of it, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I got it.
Okay, so motion to adopt by Alderwoman Gould,
I'll
Sure.
second it.
seconded by Alderwoman Berto. Is there any discussion, corrections, omissions? Hearing none, by roll call. Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderwoman Berto.
Yes.
The chair votes yes. The minutes are unanimously adopted. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3 on our agenda, citizen comment. Remind you that the meeting is being recorded, as is the content of the chat room. And with that, are there any members of the public present tonight that would like to make a comment to the committee?
Yes, I would.
Please identify yourself by name and address, and feel free to address the committee.
My name is Sean Langlis, and I'm at 142 Harlan Road, Norwich.
Welcome, Sean. What would you like to say to the committee tonight?
I just wanted to see if there was anything I could do to help further my interest in trying to bring sanity to the roads again in terms of speed, especially Harlan Road. I'm concerned that perhaps we're having a hard time, from what I understand, having enough officers to fill vacant positions. I know we've just gone through national emergency and understand, but I was just curious if there's anything like myself, the public can do, maybe to advocate for, maybe some kind of sign-on bonuses, and then maybe instant raises for the officers that are already there. Or I mean, I'm sure you guys have all thought of this stuff, but and then the other side of it is I just want to express, I feel that there's a public safety concern on my road, and I think it's true of every road in this town. I think it's true of probably all the roads in Connecticut at this point, because it's been about a year now that I've kind of casually been looking at this situation and looked at some black box data on how excessive the speeding really is. It seems to be quite a large problem. And, I'm just wondering if this is a concern for this committee or not, if there's any appetite for this kind of thing, or if it's on anybody's radar, or is it just too many other fish to fry right now? And, that's my comment. I just, I'm usually not one to join a meeting like this and do this, but I thought, I seem to hit a lot of dead ends. And, there hasn't been really a single person that I've made a phone call to in the last year that hasn't given me their own story about how excessive the speeding is in their own life, and things that are going on around them. So I don't know. I just wanted to join in tonight, see what the appetite for this kind of thing is, and if it's even something you guys are looking at. I mean, is there even a process for looking at black box data, and seeing what the speeding picture looks like in terms of public safety? Thanks. Appreciate any thoughts.
Well, Sean, first of all, thank you for being here. You're in the right place. This committee is deeply concerned about all public safety issues, including traffic and traffic enforcement and safety on our roads. I'm sure that the police chief will address your comment when he gives his report. Normally, we do not respond in dialogue on specific issues in public comment. But that's not to say that your comments are not being well received. They are actually, as I said, you are in the right place and you have the correct audience for your concerns.
I understand and appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment to the committee tonight? Second ask, is there anyone else that would like to make a comment to the committee tonight? Third and final request, is there anyone that would like to make a comment to the committee tonight? Hearing none, we'll call citizen comment closed. And just one further thing to Sean, I invite you to stay for the entire meeting and hear what the discussion is amongst the stakeholders on this committee.
Well, thank you very
Moving
much.
on.
I'll do that.
You're welcome. Moving on to item number 4 on our agenda, ongoing business. COVID-19 update, specifically infection rates and trends, expanding testing sites and hours, and home test distribution, or from our last meeting. I'll turn the floor over to the city manager to address that issue first. John Solomon, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city continues following the statewide trends, which is a diminishing infection rate for coronavirus. At this point, there is approximately 60 individuals that are being hospitalized in New London County. That includes New London and Norwich hospitals. It was well over 120 3 weeks ago, so you can see that there's been a significant reduction in that. And as we've been told, that the hospitalization trails the infection rate. So with the hospitalization going down, we can confirm that the infection rate is confirmed to be going down. I'm sure everybody's aware that the governor has decided that on February 28th, there would be local option for schools masks, that the state would not be mandating masks in the schools. It's up to the city still to have a local option on schools and municipal buildings. I'm looking at that date to make a decision of what the city should do. And I kind of said that about a month ago, that we'd look at the end of February and see where we are. So we will look at that. One thing I have not been able to find out with is the 11 items that the governor has requested to be extended by the legislature, if that includes the ability to do remote meetings. As you know, this was done under a special emergency act, the ability to have these meetings. And I don't know if they expire or not. I want to find that out, and I will let all the committees know what I find out on that. I think it's still in there, but I'm not positive. So until I can get confirmation, I don't want to say anything tonight on it. We've started our program about 3 weeks ago. We test all employees that are not vaccinated, and we test them weekly. And we've had generally good compliance with that. We allow the employee to use the home testing remedy, and that works a lot better than going down to the testing facility. And so it makes it a little easier to do that. So generally, we've done that. We did have an increase in vaccinations as probably as a result of having to do the testing. I think employees decided that, at least some of them, that testing was a pain, and getting the shot was a an easier way to avoid having to do that every week and everything. So we did have an increase in vaccinations. I can't say for sure that it's a result of the testing policy, but it certainly didn't hurt. So in summary, the trend is down. We'll take a look at the end of the month to see where we are. My inclination is that we probably would lift the mask mandate in the city also, but you never know with the virus. But the trend looks very good, and that's my report for this evening. Take any questions.
So my first question is that the issue of testing sites and hours has now been resolved because the infection rate is dropping so quickly.
Yeah, there's less of a demand for testing now. They did increase the hours. We had a conversion from one testing company to another as of February 1st, and that went very smoothly. And they increased the testing to Sunday testing, which I think has helped a lot because a lot of people can't get there during the week, but they can get there on the weekend. So that's ameliorated some of the issues. And I think just the demand for testing is been reduced because of the infection rate dropping off so much.
And we have distributed all of the home test kits that we received as a city.
Yes, we have. We've gotten them in drips and drabs over the last couple of weeks. We get 500 here, 500 there. We've been targeting most of those to individuals that can't get out, homebound, things like that, disabled. So we haven't had a general distribution. It's really not worth to do with general distribution if you only have 200 kits. They go in about 5 minutes. So we haven't done that. So, but everything that we've received has been distributed.
Perfect. Questions from the members of the committee? Alderwoman Berto.
No, I don't have any. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item B, city manager's report on the fire chief's meeting. Is my understanding that we did not have a meeting in the absence of Chief Montoya. So we don't have a meeting to report about. Is that correct?
Right. We have a meeting next week and we'll catch up then. The chief was out of town since last week. He gets back tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you for that. Then moving on to item C, dispatch and radio system upgrades, the project progress to date, and as a result of that, the ongoing revision of the run cards and the status of that part of the project.
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure, and then and then the fire chiefs can feel free to.
Yeah,
You know,
I
add
think
any
that
other
would be,
information.
but I'd like to have the fire chiefs answer about the run cards and things like that. But the equipment was ordered the end of December, as council was aware. That allowed us to get approximately a $500,000 discount. So they got it in their, the company got it in their fiscal year, which was a great incentive to us. We will be receiving equipment in the coming months and starting to implement the changeover. As far as the run cards, I'd like that the chiefs could respond to some of that.
I would ask that maybe we can hold that over to when the fire chiefs make their individual department reports, just to touch on where they are with the run card revision, department by department, if that's okay with everybody.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Any questions from the other members of the committee for the city manager regarding the progress on the radio system?
Joe,
have
actually,
no-
I have a question.
Alderwoman Berto, go right ahead.
I have a question, Joe.
Yeah,
Do we
go
have
right
an
ahead.
estimated date of completion for the new radio system?
I think that would be directed towards the city manager or the fire chiefs as a group,
Or the police chief, because they're
Or the
coordinating
police
that.
chief. There you go.
Chief
Thank you.
Daly might be able to give you a specific comment.
I
Chief,
can actually. We're looking to have the equipment in place by the summer to get the radio switched over, then transitioning into the CAD project. It'll probably be about an 18-month project, barring no roadblocks or anything. But the equipment's first. We almost had 4 pallets of equipment delivered to us last week by accident, instead of going to the vendor in state to get staged. So I believe a good percentage of our equipment is already in state, and it's getting programmed and spun up for deployment to Norwich's volunteer forces. It's going to be 2 stages, really. The equipment for the radio system, then the mobile data terminals for the fire trucks so they can do closest unit dispatching. And then the 3rd phase is the CAD system itself. So we're staging for phase 1, I guess, is where we stand right now. But I'm still looking at an 18-month turnaround from phase 1 to phase 3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the radio system project?
I don't have any, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well then, moving on to item number 5, new business. Item A, January 29th storm impacts on public safety. I put this on the agenda. I wanted to open up this to not just the city manager, but the entire public safety complex in terms of the impacts, challenges, successes that we had specific to the blizzard. So open the floor to whoever would like to speak on that.
well, I'll start off, Mr. Chairman. The storm was a storm that had less issues because the predominant part of the storm was on Saturday, and school was not in session. Many people were not working, so to get at the roads was much easier than it would be if it was a snowstorm during the work week. So that was very important. We had sufficient staff. We had to use all the recreation people and also all our building maintenance people. Building maintenance concentrated mostly on clearing building sidewalks, things like that downtown. We did have 2 pieces of equipment go down. One was an accident that slid into a pole. We did have some power outages as a result of the collision. The other was a little more exciting. We had a truck fire, a hydraulic line ruptured, and the truck caught fire. It's ironic because that truck is going to be replaced and was ordered for replacement last March. So you can see how long it takes to get a truck now in the supply chain. It's almost a year, and we didn't have the new truck. The good thing about that is we'll get a claim against the old truck that was consumed in the fire. So that'll help offset some of the payment of the new truck. So in a way, it was good, and it did hinder ourselves a little bit. At this point, we have about half of the salt consumed that the city has, which is good at this time of year. Although we had 22 inches, we really don't use any much more snow than you would in a smaller snowstorm, because you don't apply any material when you're plowing, because you just push it off to the side of the road if you do that. So you apply material in the beginning of the storm, and then you apply after you push the snow back. We were busy clearing major urban areas until about Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, because you could not maneuver downtown with that piles of snow that we had on the sidewalks. So all in all, the storm cost about $150,000. That includes all the overtime, material, etc. That's a brief summary, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you for that. Any of the other stakeholders like to discuss the impacts of the storm? I see Laurel Hills DC has got his hand raised. Go right ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the big issue that we had with the storm for us, we didn't see a plow for almost 6 hours. So, we had the front of our bay, we were constantly cleaning. And the only plows that we actually saw for a period of time was only the state plows on the road. We called a few times. Eventually, we got dug out. But that was one concern that we did have up there, is just it took a little while. And I understand it was a big storm. I get it. But to get places made it rather difficult. That's all I got.
That's a legitimate point. Absolutely. I know that we can talk about that a little bit at the next Public Works meeting. You're right, extraordinary storm. But again, I would agree that emergency services need to get dug out first. So thank you for that. Chief Jenks, I see you have your hand raised. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, I guess I'm not going to put it as polite as the deputy chief did. As far as I'm concerned, and most of the residents here in Taffville, we didn't see a snowplow at all. Very rarely. We had an ambulance with a patient get stuck. We had to call for a plow. People were literally abandoning their cars in the middle of the streets because they couldn't get home. They never plowed the end of South A Street. Public Works is supposed to plow our lot. We saw them 3 times in the entire storm, including one time they hit the doors backblading the building. The doors we just had spent to have realigned and redone. But along the same lines, we really didn't see a state truck either, although the state roads were in better shape. We responded with American Ambulance. We had an ambulance here. It was a BLS call. Normally the fire department wouldn't go, but we ended up shoveling through a 3-foot drift so the 2 people were able to get the stretcher in and out of the house. Public Works works hard, but as far as snow removal, I mean, it was absolutely horrible. And I'm sure that if more residents from the city and from Taffville would have known about the meeting or wished to participate, they would have expressed the same way. The school didn't plow their lot. Most people would park their cars at the school, walk home, shovel out their driveways so they could get in. The school didn't plow at all. So they were literally abandoning cars in the middle of the road. And that was a major problem for us.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else from any of the other stakeholders that would like to discuss, address this issue? I see Chief Ibers with your hand up. Go right ahead, sir.
Hi, a little different story for us. We had just to make everyone aware, we continued to maintain our private contractor. Private contractor did a good job. We just had to keep the front of the doors open so the trucks could get out, and we didn't seem to have the problems. We did have pretty good luck with Public Works keeping Yantic Road open. for both those incidents with the public works vehicles, they had a little bit of probably a head start on us, but they made sure that there was in one call, they made sure that access was available to both in the village and out of the village for those folks, so we could get out. So we had a little bit of a different story. I do want to give kudos to Hyde Park Landscaping for the incident up on Plain Hill. We kind of met them at the bottom of Plain Hill through some hand signals. He led the way for us, so that did help out immensely. But overall, that was that incident between police, public works, American Ambulance. That incident went relatively smooth. And throughout the storm, we were running an extra engine on all calls, just in case we had to shovel to get to someone's front door for a medical call or something along those lines.
Thank you for that. And I agree with you. I saw the Facebook post regarding the help that you got from Hyde Park getting up Plain Hill Road, and it was greatly appreciated. That one, as I was watching the snow go by the front of my house, literally sideways, it put a smile on my face to see that. So that was greatly appreciated. Thank you for your comments. Chief Despathi, go ahead.
I just want to echo a few of Chief Ivers there. We have a few more state roads, so ours weren't quite. We had quite a few state plows come through. We know NPU Public Works was busy. They were pretty responsive for plowing out up front. Whenever we called them, they came. Yeah, we're not as rural here, so we didn't have the problems that like Taffel and they had, but the secondary roads were, they were not plowed for a very long time. So we did put extra staff on. I believe all of the volunteer companies also had people in their house. So I think that way everything worked well. And that's all I had. Was I just wanted to echo a few of that. That's all.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Stop. Mommy's in a meeting. Shh.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I, on behalf of EGP, we were pretty fortunate in the event of we actually didn't have any calls during the snowstorm whatsoever, which was actually a very nice thing for us. But again, kind of echo some of the comments that the other chiefs made. We didn't see a public works plow on our apron for the front of the firehouse for quite a while. Significant issue we have with our apron when it's not plowed in that kind of snow is once the front of the fire truck comes out of the station, it hits that snow, it's getting stuck in the door. So this has kind of been a little bit, this was, again, not blaming anyway because of a significant storm, but I think as you stated, the emergency services, police department and the fire departments need to be looked at a little bit quicker in a little more timely fashion of such. So, but luckily EGP didn't have any calls during the snowstorm. They all waited till the following day.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chief. Let me, maybe I should have started with this comment. This is not about pointing fingers. I agree with you. I'm not taking it as you're pointing fingers. You're raising legitimate concerns and expressing what your experiences were. It gives us things to talk about and think about and plan for when we know we're going to have a major storm like this, which seems like it's going to happen more frequently for a number of different reasons that we are completely not in control of. So this is good discussion to understand what your challenges were, so that we can continue the discussion with our other departments. And if we need to adjust our plan of attack, then so be it. That's what these conversations are supposed to be about. Chief Daly, I see you have your hand raised. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, just commenting on the storm. Public Works kept our facility open and they were responsive to us, much like Chief Despathi. We called, they came, and we were able to get in and out of our station throughout the entire storm. Public Works, we had a lot of complaints from citizens that the roads wasn't plowed, or the street wasn't done. What we found throughout the night was with the howling wind and the depth of the snow, plows would come by, but they didn't have the usual rumble and bang normally because they're still only plowing down to about 2 or 3 inches of snow. So we were seeing plows drive by that you just didn't hear because the wind was getting covered. Not to make excuses for Public Works, but I do think they did a little bit more than people are giving them credit for. It just the plow would come through and then the wind would fill that road back in as quick as they left. The only thing that we kind of brainstormed afterwards is a respectful suggestion that we pass on to Public Works. They take everybody off the road for rest. I'd really rather have them keep like a 3 or 4 person crew in 3 separate trucks out there. Because when they were off, we continued to get complaints or accidents, and we needed assistance, and the entire workforce was down for rest. So I would say if we could find a way to stagger it, if you know you got a long duration storm in excess of 24, 36 hours, maybe plan your personnel deployment differently so there's always an emergency call person available for a fire, car accident, or a medical. Tim's points about cars being abandoned on the road is true. But if the plows aren't there if there's no one to call because they're all down, I think that would be something that we could look at, just kind of tweaking it. Other than that, we were able to get where we had to go. Our vehicles performed decently. We did get stuck up at the Plain Hill pole job when we tried getting out of there. There were 2 newer cars, so we're trying to figure out if that was a programming issue because the 2 cars were the same model year. And no other vehicles of our fleet were stuck. And we spent a lot of time also assisting Public Works during the storm and afterwards towing cars. We towed more cars than normal due to the severity of the storm. We towed approximately 20 to 25 cars. So I think that's all from the police side.
All right, well, thank you very much for that. I'm taking copious notes here, because again, this should all further a conversation about our plan of attack when it comes to a major storm like this. So I appreciate everyone's comments. Is there anyone else that would like to share any other impacts from the storm? Are there any questions from the other members of the committee for any of the stakeholders? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much for your input. All right, moving on, still under new business, our department updates. Starting with Norwich Public Utilities. I thought I let Eric in.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
I want to make sure I didn't leave you in the waiting room.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So our leadership team's continuing to monitor COVID-19. Thankfully, we have had no impacts to our operations as a result of the most recent surge. And as the city manager said, we are now starting to see things move in the right direction. That also includes a drop in cases among our staff. Right now, our staff vaccination rate is 87% and our PPE levels remain sufficient. Both our reservoirs are at full pond. And as we've been talking about for the last few minutes, we did have that blizzard come through a couple of weeks ago. We staffed up, we were ready, but thankfully we did not have, we only had a handful of outages, including, the one that was the result of the plow truck coming into contact with one of our poles. But I do have to say that the coordination with Public Works and everybody else with that was really good. Allowed us to get the truck out pretty quickly and power restored in what was some pretty hard conditions up there on Plain Hill, as I think everyone that was up there can agree. The wind was howling pretty good. We also recently assisted with the repair of the Orchard Street generator. That's the new Orchard Street generator that supports the radio system. And we are also working with the police to upgrade the control system for their emergency generator. We're just waiting on one part at this point. We have a control board that we should be getting sometime in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And then we can get the control system installed and get that generator back up and fully functional. Pending your questions, that's all I have.
My only question is, during the blizzard, EOC was activated, correct?
It was a partial activation, yeah. So we didn't bring people in. We had our staff at the building, but the EOC folks were able to do it remotely.
Okay. And everything went smoothly?
Everything did, yeah,
For a storm of that magnitude.
absolutely.
Terrific. Any questions for Eric from the other members of the committee? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Eric. Moving on to Rob at American Ambulance. Go right ahead, sir.
Evening, Alderman Gould, Alderman Berto. So for the month of January, thankfully, we had many fewer calls than we did in December. As the other agencies have echoed, and I believe the city manager as well, our impacts from COVID are significantly decreased. So that's moving in the right direction, thankfully. We did have some challenges early in the month with basically overcrowding the emergency department. The hospitals were overwhelmed just as well as everybody else. And we were working with the hospitals to make sure that we could limit the time that the ambulances were spending waiting to get patients turned over to their staff. We were very, very successful in that. We were able to reduce our turnaround time significantly back to basically what they were before the surge happened. So that was a good thing. The hospital was very cooperative and very helpful with that. So we're grateful for that. I didn't chime up during the earlier update. We have a very, very small storm update. We had 2 of our own plow trucks running throughout the whole storm to try to keep up with our property, and then additionally to help with some of our ambulances that needed it. We fared fairly well as far as that was concerned. I'm grateful as always to TAFL for hosting our ambulance in their quarters, as long as it wasn't out on calls, which it seemed to be for most of the storm, as it always is out of that particular location during a storm. But Chief Jenks has always been very generous and very helpful. So I wanted to thank him for that. During the course of the month, we responded to 709 emergencies in the city of Norwich, 506 of those through 911, and 151 of those were direct transfers from NPD, which were calls that don't come in through 911 through the 911 system. Many of those are officer requests and things along those lines. The remainder were private phone calls or alarm companies that called us. During the month, we did have some challenges with a couple of the locations in Norwich, particularly in the East Great Plains region, having construction issues and then elevator problems as well. So we're working with Chief Milton to try to remedy those to the best of our ability and continue to serve the residents without any significant interruptions. Thankfully, once again, we currently have no staff affected by COVID-19. We're back to a 0 level, which is a great thing considering our previous levels were pretty significant for that original surge. We are currently at a 96 to 98% compliance rate with full vaccination and boosters. The governor has issued an executive order that required us, amongst other healthcare providers, to be fully vaccinated and boosted by Friday. We believe we're going to meet that target. Other than that, our PPE supplies are strong. We do have an order in for a one-time pickup to supplement strategic things that we may find ourselves running a little short on in the distant future. The state has offered to provide that, so we took advantage of it. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report for the committee unless you have any questions.
I do not. Members of the committee have questions for Rob?
I would just like to ask Rob one if I could, please.
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Rob, now that the surge is, I think, over and the percentage of COVID infection, the COVID infection rate is going down, is the ER seeing a easing up of their situation, or does it still remain really congested over there in the ER?
Gold, it's really kind of a moment by moment situation over there. Like most other small ERs in the state, they have days when they're doing okay, and they have days when they're super overwhelmed. I think that Bacchus on the whole does frankly a much better job than some ERs in the state trying to manage the surge. However, there are significant wait times that are still cropping up. But I think as the surge kind of trends down the other direction, we are going to see a decrease in the overall congestion in the emergency room. The major problem is that there's still limited availability to admit patients because they only have just so many beds in the other parts of the hospital. So the ER staff at Bacchus is very good at managing the surge to the best of their ability. But with the ability of them to only admit so many patients to ICUs and step-down units, they've been working with their partners at Harper Healthcare to try to shift patients around the state, which has created a little bit of a relief for that backlog, and I'm hoping that it's continuing to go in the right direction.
Thank you.
Joe, I did have just one other thing to add to kind of echo. I don't remember who it was that reported on the truck that burned up. The supply chain issues are real. We just received delivery of 3 new ambulances that will be serving the city of Norwich and surrounding communities as well. As of the early last week, our owner and vice president drove them back from North Carolina, so they are here. Will be on the tax roll shortly. They are replacing some of our vehicles that very desperately needed to be replaced. But we weren't able to obtain because they weren't able to get them. They couldn't find them anywhere. So we thankfully were able to do that. Just figured to bring that up in case anybody has any questions. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? No, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Moving on to Chief Daly and the Police Department report. I know that I have your report, Chief. I know that the other members of the committee have your report. And just so that I don't forget, after you go through your report, could we please address the public comment tonight? And I would also like to discuss briefly in this meeting the parking issues that the Taftville Volunteer Fire Department is experiencing with school drop-off and pickup. So the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. You have the report in your email. Very, very busy month with 2 homicides and a couple other major calls. So the officers have been very, very busy with that. Early in the month, we had staffing concerns due to COVID. We had probably 5 to 6 officers out for a couple of weeks with COVID exposures, waiting their till they would clear to return. Currently, right now, we only have 2 officers out. One's been a long-term one from an exposure back toward the end of last year, and the other officer just showed positive yesterday. So we seem to be getting over the COVID hump. But again, as it was in the paper, staffing is a concern. We had 2 retirements this month and hired 1 officer, and the officer we hired again doesn't even touch our vacancies currently. So that is a major concern. We continue to work the cases and do what we can. We did assist Public Works a lot with the storm, which seemed to work out really well. So that's all I have for that. To Mr. Langlois' concerns, yes, speeding and traffic are a major concern. Starting back in 2020, early in the pandemic, the first year of the pandemic, we had 5 traffic-related fatalities in Norwich. 3 of them were on scooters, the motorized scooters, which was a major issue, which seems to have settled down as of late, but not gone away. Weather doesn't stop the scooters, who pick and choose what motor vehicle laws they choose to follow. Then the other issue is speed. Speed's an issue throughout the city. We have done studies on Harlan Road. There is a legitimate issue there. Plain Hill Road, we just came back with one there. There's a legitimate issue there. Canterbury Turnpike, legitimate issues. Not every road has a speeding problem. Oftentimes we get, reached out from citizens talking about speeding on their road. We will do a study on that road. And the vast majority of them is not a speeding issue, but there are some certain hotspots throughout the city that there are issues. The problem, especially where you all live, Mr. Langlois, is the lower end of Harlan Road is not a good place for us to set up. So we usually set up further up Harlan Road. So if you see us, when we do enforcement action on Harlan Road, it's usually more to the top of the hill. Some emails that the mayor's forwarded me over the last few months was asking for signs. We do have electronic signs on order that'll help advise people about speeding, but those are advisory. We can't have speed cameras in Connecticut. They're not allowed. If you see Hartford discussing speed cameras or red light cameras, that's a pilot program that they're allowed to by the state legislature. The rest of us cannot have it. So we are trying to address speed as much as we can. Staffing is a concern. The workforce, motor vehicle stops are down across the state in light of the police accountability bill and the pandemic. The officers have naturally taken a step back. But I have noticed in the last probably the last 2 months or so, our motor vehicle activity is starting to creep up again as the officers begin to feel comfortable in enforcing traffic laws. Any concerns you have, please reach out directly to me. I can help you and assist you. I can't fix the problem though. Like you said, everybody else you've talked to has speeding issues, and we all see it every day. It's a societal issue. It's going on across the country. No easy answer other than just model the behavior and hopefully people will regain, society will regain their senses. So that's what I have there. And Mr. Chairman, if you have anything further on that issue or you want to move to the parking issue, we'll give that a try.
Well, I'd like to stay on the motor vehicle enforcement issue, and I refer to it that way specifically because to me, it's not just the speeding. It's and you and I have discussed this, so so I don't want anybody to think that I'm ambushing the chief, because we've had some very good conversations about this, where stop signs are merely a suggestion. And red lights are merely a suggestion, or if 5 cars go through it after it's turned red, and again, it's the sign of our motoring public and how they're choosing to behave. My question is, and I know that this has a price tag attached to it, but is it time that we go back to the old school traffic units where, we fund officers that are out there and their only responsibility is traffic enforcement? Because some people just will not change their behavior until they're facing that second or third $150 ticket to the state of Connecticut.
No, that's a valid suggestion. We have submitted it in the budget probably 4 or 5 years ago, but in all honesty, right now, if you have funded a traffic unit, it probably have to be on an overtime basis, just because we can't hire people, and that's the reality of it. I'd love to say, yeah, we'll put a 2-man traffic squad that works independent of shift hours and where the hot spots are. The surveillance equipment we have will tell us the direction of travel, what day of the week, the times to be there. It's just trying to get our officers to be there. So right now we're dual tasking the patrol officers and the beat officers, which is part of their responsibility. But I'd love to say, take you up on your offer, and yeah, let's put a guy in the budget, maybe one more next year. But unless we find a great pool of applicants anytime soon, we're going to be challenged to staff that.
And obviously, right. I mean, if you don't have the bodies, the work doesn't get done. And am I correct in my assumption that that traffic cameras on red lights, right, are not permitted under the law currently in the state of Connecticut?
That is correct. It's a privacy issue. Connecticut is a very, very it takes its civil liberties very seriously, and I don't think you'll ever see red light cameras allowed throughout the entire state. I remember talking probably 15 years ago with state legislators, and because it takes a picture not only of your license plate, of the inside passenger compartment of the driver and showing the driver who's in the car, that the state legislature would not entertain red light cameras. There is, like I said, Hartford has been approved for a pilot program, but now what's reporting in from our friends on the left coast is red light cameras and speed cameras are really just cash grabs. It's been 15, 20 years out there, and it really hasn't affected the motor vehicle safety numbers that you think it would. Initially, when they were new, the first 2 or 3 years, yes, traffic accidents did drop dramatically, but now they're at the same levels as the public became used to them. And really all it does is victimize your citizens with large tickets.
Right, and that's where when the system's now is out of balance in a wrong direction. Okay, Alderman Berto, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, I just had a quick question to ask the chief.
Go ahead.
Why do you think the interest for hiring is low?
A lot of reasons. It's, the job isn't as attractive as it once was. Private industry jobs with straight working from home is an option for a lot of places. There's a great resignation going on across the country right now. Seeing that. And then, in all honesty, let's go back and look at, the Police Accountability Act and the George Floyd protests. Police officers, unfortunately, feel demonized. Whether or not that's true or not, I can't change the perception that a lot of people just don't feel like it's a job either to have or to stay in. We've lost officers who've left here to go to other city agencies or just leave policing altogether. So even the problems that you see nationwide are affecting your own police department, and it's, the pendulum is swinging back the other way, but it's swinging very slow. And from hiring somebody to getting them on the street independently is better part of a year. And so it's a quick onset of a problem with a very long cure.
So what do you think we can do to, entice people to apply? I mean,
There's a lot of things that'll have to be collective bargaining or maybe MOUs. And I can run down some of the things right now real quickly. Mr. Langlois did mention signing bonuses. That is being done across the country. Longevity bonuses for people staying or retention bonuses. There's also perhaps changing, allowing prior police experience. So an officer who wants to leave Department X because he's become disenfranchised, maybe he could come to Norwich if he's allowed to buy a portion of his time back. And then looking at we were successful for years because we had a 20-year retirement, and a lot of the area towns had a 25-year retirement, so that made it incredibly attractive. We've now gone to 25. Looking at that has been done by Willimantic. Willimantic took it on sat down with the union leadership in one day, and they came out of it with the 20-year retirement back. But there's an expense to that. That's OPEB. That's a lot of long-term actuarial expenses. But those are some things that cities and towns are looking to do across the country. And there's no magic fix. I wish there was.
And just to piggyback on that, because you and I had a lengthy conversation about this as well. And, it takes a year to get an officer on the street and productive. So it's, like you said, it's not an easy fix.
It's not an easy fix.
Even when you
I
have the
talked to
candidates that want to be there.
I talked to the people at the state level about considering shortening the police academy and going to more online learning. The pandemic taught us we can learn online, and maybe instead of having the academy be 6 months, can make it 4 months with some online training that can be done back at the agency as they're working. When Joe went to the academy, it was probably 12 weeks, Joe, maybe
12 weeks.
12 weeks. I think I went, it was 16 weeks. Now it's close to 30 weeks. And I don't know if that's such a good idea now. My example I always give to everybody, and I won't talk too far, I could talk all night about this, is West Point in 1939 was 4 years long. West Point in 1943 was 2 years long. What happened? We had a war, we had an emergency, we had to change things. So I think we're at that stage right now that we have to look at everything, including shortening the academy, but not sacrificing the quality.
now what about high schools and colleges? Can't we scout out like over at high schools and colleges? I know a lot of young kids going for criminal justice. They want to be cops.
Our community
we
policing
should be-
unit just started an outreach to Eastern Connecticut State University and NFA. The problem is, back in 1993, they raised the age from an officer from 18 to 21, which is a good thing, but we lose those candidates in 3 years. A lot of times they'll go to the military and not come back, or they'll become disillusioned, and they'll move away from law enforcement. I would recommend going back to 18 years old, but it's tough to bridge that gap. We try reaching out to the community colleges, but we are holding high hopes for this new Eastern program, where we're going to spend like a semester with their law enforcement majors trying to work through their system and maybe guide them right into the testing process.
Okay. Yeah, I know I've been mentioning it where I work that, you guys are currently looking for help, and, telling them the pros about Norwich, trying to get them to apply to help you out.
We appreciate that, to be honest with you. And I talked to Alderman DeLucia about the tech schools. It's your public safety agencies, your EMS workers, your firefighters, and then your security officers that we tend to draw from going back over the last 20 or 30 years and been done very well with. So again, we'll still be looking for people in all your agencies who are interested in a career in law enforcement. Anyone you think is a good choice, send them my way.
Definitely will do. Thank you. So that's all I had.
All right, I think we should, at this point, Chief, move on to the parking issues down in front of the Taffel Firehouse.
Yeah, I've heard the reports. I haven't seen any film on it yet, but we got a camera in the area, so I could probably watch it. Drop off and pickup are definitely an issue. It's been that way for a couple of years. I do believe since the pandemic, it got significantly worse because everyone drives their children to school who have the ability to. It's not only in Taffel School for those of us on the west side. I know Alderman DeLucia, Alderman Gould, if you've been subjected to it, but Stanton School also backs up to the point it blocks the London Turnpike. So there's no really good solution to it other than staggered dismissal times, which causes the Board of Ed great angst in doing staggered dismissals. Stanton School does have land; they could expand their driveway, but Aquanic. Tim, I'll defer to you if you've got some magic solution to cue the traffic a little bit better, other than just discouraging people from picking up their kids.
Well, it's not so much as, there is ample parking if they look for it. It's honestly just a laziness. Over the years, they'll get here early. They'll park on the crosswalks. They'll park too close to the crosswalks. Your crossing guard's almost been struck several times. People aren't stopping. Just had another incident tonight, and this is in relation to the food drive that happened. They had cars backed all the way down to South Second and North Second Ave, and the road was so blocked up. A trailer truck came up the wrong way on Providence Street. You realize with the snow and everything else, it's a major issue, but they couldn't get the engine out the door because there were people parked on the apron so they could run over and get some food. This is a significant issue. We've been nice to them, said, hey, please don't park in front of the station. And, the guys are met with, vulgar behavior, which is unacceptable. We did have a lady thought she was going to be smart parking the parking lot. They asked her not to. Lo and behold, about 4 days later, she had to sit in the parking lot for an hour while we were at a car accident. She was extremely irate because she was late for work, but it's posted, don't block, it should be common sense, but unfortunately common sense ain't too common anymore. I don't know what the issue is. They literally get out of their cars, they abandon them right there, and they walk over to the school. We put a post up on Monday. It's had over 11,000 views. We have a large majority of Norwich residents follow our Facebook page, and we basically ask people not to do it. All of the comments were positive. I don't see us ramming one, but that was quite the popular suggestion. I don't know what the answer is. You guys are busy enough and being short-staffed, but we've got to try to figure something out. We send, for years, we've sent the police officer over to NFA every morning and every night. Maybe we need to try and designate somebody over here to stop that. I would really hate to have somebody die or become serious, have medical care not rendered in a timely fashion because of this.
All valid concerns. Just some point of information. The NFA officer is part of the $200 per student discount. That's covered in there for city services. Often people think we just eat that. No, that's the city gets a consideration for that. The food drive, we did try to move a couple of years ago. The food drive's been an issue, probably going back 4 years, if I recall. It's part of the things they really like having the food drive close to the people who need it the most. And unfortunately, in Taffel, there's just not a lot of spots to give it out. And we try to get it there as much as we can to assist with traffic, but the food drive has been a challenge. The one at NFA was a challenge, but pick up and drop off at schools are an issue throughout the city. Again, I was just thinking when you were talking, Tim, Starbucks and Mahan School is a major issue. Stanton School drop off is a major issue. Huntington School drop off and pickup is a major issue. A lot of people, it's not just a TAFL problem. That's the problem you see. There's probably with the exception of veterans, I think every school that I'm aware of has a significant issue with causing traffic disruptions and parking issues around their schools. Again, they were designed to handle all buses and not still keep the same number of buses and size of buses, but have them 10% occupied, 20% occupied. The superintendent did hire a transportation coordinator last year, and I'm hoping that will help. Maybe we can do something like that. I think staggering would really, really help. For those of you who remember the old Stanton school days, the walkers used to get out a little bit earlier than the bus kids, and we always got to go first. Do something like that, or maybe K through 3 gets out at 2:15, and 4, 5, 6 gets out at 2:30. Maybe that's enough just to take the pressure off.
Well, the other places you mentioned are businesses, and that we're running into the same problem up here. I've talked to a couple of the local businesses; they're having the same problem. But we're blocking emergency apparatus, and that's the key issue. I understand there's a traffic issue everywhere, but the delay in blocking the apron and everything. If they want to park in a lot, they're rolling the dice. It's their problem. But blocking the apparatus, I sent you a couple of pictures that they weren't that great. But we've got some more, and I think that's the key issue is the other places, yes, is business issues, but this is emergency services related where they're blocking and delaying the.
Not to get into an argument, but Huntington does affect the Yannick responses, American ambulance responses, and police responses. And then I can definitely tell you, Nolan Turnpike definitely affects EGP's ability to turn out when everyone who lives north of the station is not able to get there, because Nolan Turnpike is the only way down there, unless you have to go all the way to Asylum Street and around. So there are emergency service impacts to the other places.
Right, but all of the firehouses, the apparatus is at least able to get out on the street. We can't even make it out of the building sometimes the way they park.
No, we understand your concerns. We totally do.
Okay.
Alderman Gould, I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you. So the first thing we have to remember is that all of these schools, or most of these schools, were built at a time when few families had 2 cars, never mind 1 car. And a lot of us, yes, I do remember the days of Stanton School. The walkers are now dismissed, and they went home earlier, a few minutes earlier than everybody else who was riding a school bus. And Bishop is another place, probably impacts the city's response. Bishop, sometimes over there, it's a traffic nightmare. I've seen it on New London. I've seen it all over the city. But specifically to Chief Jenks, have you tried reaching out to Waquanic School to ask them, and to do it again, maybe, to remind parents in some kind of whether it's a message to the parents or their school e-letter, that they cannot park even for a minute in front of your station? And and whoever is running the food drive, they have to be reminded to tell people when they're coming for the food drive, when they're announcing the food drive, that there has to be a line in there that they cannot park in front of your station. And to Chief Daly's about staggering the times, I don't know if that's going to work for the transportation coordinator, because they're on tight times now with NFA getting out, the middle school getting out, then the elementary school getting out, and I could hear the phone ringing in Dr. Stringfellow's office that someone's 2nd grader got home at 3:30, and the 5th grader didn't get home until 3:50, and that's messed up their whole afternoon. So I don't know that staggered times will work for families, or that may create a bigger problem for people who are picking up their students. So it may not work. It's a great idea, but I don't know if it'll work, especially with the buses in Norwich. But really for Chief Jenks, reaching out to Aquanic, I'm sure they want to be good neighbors. They understand that you're right across the street, and people have to be mindful. We have to change the way people, do business all across the city. Speeding, parking, going through red light stop signs. We have to change the culture somehow.
So we have reached out. They send it out in their weekly newsletter every week. This goes back several years to when Principal Fain was there. There was at times Principal Fain would actually come out and tell people you can't park here, or try to move them along. So we have been. It's just gotten to the point that we had to bring it to this platform because whatever was going with we weren't. It wasn't so much that the school wasn't willing to participate. They're doing the best that they can. They're sending out the notices. It's on the public's end of it where they honestly just don't care. So we have reached out to the school. We haven't reached out to the food drive because the PD's been involved with that numerous times. And that's just a whole nother disaster. I get we want to get the food where the people are, but they're blocking the intersections. They don't want to lose their place in line. They're not letting people pull out of their driveways, and it is what it is, I guess, but it's bad. But with the snow on the roads, Norwich came by and took care of the roads in the village. The state has yet to come by and address any of the issues. The state really doesn't do it the way the city of Norwich does it as far as snow removal.
And Alderman Gould, just to echo what Chief Jenks said, we've had numerous meetings with the Aquanic School staff, and it's nothing that they can do really other than, again, like I said, not messing with the bus this time, but having the walkers, I guess I don't know what the new phrase they use, have them either go earlier or later, stagger their departure times. But we met with the school staff, and they do put it out there, and they know there's an issue, and they're trying to be good neighbors. It's just the parents are not responsive.
Fair point. Alderwoman
Yep.
Berto.
I just wanted to echo what Chief Daly said. I'm not from Norwich, so I don't know anything about the school walking from Stanton, but I went to school in Manchester, and that's how we did it. The elementary school got out at a time, the middle school got out at a certain time, and your high school got out at a certain time. That way, all the traffic wouldn't be like what it is now. So I like the idea. If I don't see why it wouldn't work. That's all I have.
Thank you for that. Well, I think we've looked at this from a couple of different directions, and obviously it's been an ongoing problem. This is and clearly not new. We'll have to continue to work on this. But the bottom line is, Chief Jenks is right. The trucks need to get out when they're needed, period. So we'll just have to keep working on this until we find a solution. And with that, continuing on with our department reports, we'll move on to emergency management. I believe Director Waters is in our meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the last month has been very, very busy with COVID. It started basically in the fire department. There's been 16 personnel total now that have been out. We still have one that is currently out. It definitely affected operations, and it also affected, different distributions of test kits and masks and everything else. So currently, the city manager indicated that we've completed our public distributions. They were done on 2 different dates. One was done earlier in January at the Foxwoods slot, and the other one was done in front of the Kelly Middle School. Both went very, very well. Now we're required by the state to publicly announce a phone number that the vulnerable populations can contact. So we posted that actually on our Facebook page today. It went on the city Facebook page, and it also went on the city website. So we have a very limited amount of self-test kits and masks that are available to the public, to the vulnerable populations, which it's defined in the press release. So as soon as that number went up today, we got a good amount of phone calls, and we had people that were able to come to the fire station and pick them up. And part of the announcement, we're required to be able to also deliver them. So that is still up, and as soon as we'll go as long as we can to distribute what we have. We definitely have a lot more masks than we have test kits. So anybody from the public that needs masks and they meet that criteria of a vulnerable population, we ask them to give us a call. As far as anything else with emergency management, the storm, as Eric McDermott indicated with the blizzard, there was a partial activation of the EOC. And as far as anything else emergency management, we're working on a couple of grants right now and some other COVID related things. One of the nice things that's Norwich Public Works has assisted with regionally is for the last, year and a half or so, Mohegan Sun has been the primary point of distribution for PPE for various, fire departments and agencies and ambulance services, and they have been unavailable to help out recently. So Norwich Public Works has provided a what we call a pod distribution point, and there's actually one of those tomorrow that 9 different agencies are going to pick up more PPE and test kits. We're not part of that tomorrow, but we certainly appreciate what they've done for us. So that's all that I have for emergency management.
There we go. Thank you for that. Are any questions from the committee members? Sounds like nothing. Thank you, Mark. And before we get into the fire department reports, I just want to circle back to a couple of things. I knew I was going to miss something on the with the police chief. First of all, I would just like to thank, on behalf of the committee, Sergeant Kelsey and Detective Carter, that for their years of service to the city of Norwich, and congratulations on their retirements. Making it to the end of a career in the police service is an admirable thing, and the city has benefited, the residents have benefited, and their service is greatly appreciated. Please pass that on behalf of the committee. And I would like to thank you, Chief, for your work with the administration of the school system on the SRO initiative. I was at the Board of Ed meeting last night, as was Alderwoman Gould and Alderman Wilson, and we heard a report of your meeting with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent regarding the SRO program. And I was quite impressed, but not surprised at all that you were right on top of this whole thing and had all the pieces of the puzzle. And I appreciate your work on that.
Well, thank you for everybody. We're looking forward to the partnership with the schools. I think it'll be beneficial and more positive chances for interaction with the students. So we're looking forward to get that going.
Absolutely. Thanks again. So now moving on to the fire department reports, you'll notice fire chiefs, I reversed the order so that Laurel Hill and EGP don't have to wait to the end every single month. I think we'll reverse it every other month or something like that, just out of fairness. So tonight we will start with the Laurel Hill, the fire department.
Good evening, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, Chief.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to make it kind of quick because normally I'm last. So we'll make it quick since I'm first this time. So a couple things last month. So obviously everyone's been talking about the blizzard. We were fully staffed, as Battalion Chief Dispatchy said. We were fully staffed. We had 3 trucks available. We did have 1 call during it. Most of the time, as Deputy Chief Clark was saying, the guys were actually outside shoveling and plowing majority of the time to keep the aprons clear. So that is something that we definitely need to look at for the next storms. Obviously something of this magnitude we need to address beforehand. But there were some calls made and we were able to get ourselves out after the storm in a timely manner. So, but we did spend a significant amount of time doing it ourselves. So that is something that was there. As far as COVID goes, currently we have no impact. Our supplies are sufficient. Last month, I actually got COVID. I was the only one in the department to actually get COVID that I'm aware of. So I'm back now. So we're good with that. All of our supplies are good. We are still on a mask mandate at the firehouse. I haven't lifted that yet. We're going to reevaluate at the end of the month. All of our training is online based still. And we'll reevaluate going into next month. Hopefully the numbers keep trending down like they have been, and we'll be able to lift that. As far as training goes, we did have 1 member finish his Fire 1 this month. He's also going to be doing his EMR training, so we're going to have firefighter and the EMR hopefully by the end of the month. He's completed both of those. And we started our OSHA, all of our OSHA training. Most of it can be done online, so we're doing that all online this month. Hopefully be completed. The only thing we can't do is hands-on CPR, so we are going to have to wait and do that kind of in the future once we can get everyone in. But we'll be doing that very shortly. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was the Lucas devices from the National Response Plan money. That is something that we did bring. Actually, my deputy is the one who kind of ran with that to with the city manager. That is something that I believe is very needed and should be funded. Hopefully, it'll be coming up shortly in the next funding. For anyone who's actually had to do CPR on someone for 20 minutes, I'm telling you, having a device that works is something that is needed. Doing compressions in the back of an ambulance is not something that is fun and effective. These devices make that possible. Taftville has used it very effectively over the last couple of years, and it's something that I think we need to put in place for all the citizens of Norwich to make it better. So if anyone has any questions, that's all I have.
Any questions from the committee members for Chief Westerfelt? All set, Chief. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Moving on to Chief Milton, East Great Plain.
I believe Mr. Chief Milton has gone to a structure fire on Town Street.
Yeah, I see that. I see that now in the chat. Thank you. So then we'll move on to Chief Eggert, Occam Fire Department.
Hey, hello. So last month we responded to 17 calls of service, 5 of those being mutual aid. Out of our responses, last month I reported that we went New Year's Day to Taftville mutual aid. On the 12th, we went to the city on Corning Road. On the 13th, we went to 13th Street to be redirected to headquarters to provide coverage, and then took in 1 medical call for them. And then on the 28th, obviously, we did winter storm standby like everybody else did. No major issues with that. We had 2 calls of service. Critical needs. So Engine 41 came back today after being out of service for 2 days. They had to replace a rusted pipe on the pump. And then our parts that we waited on for over 6 months for the electrical was finally taken care of today. So that's finally done. Squad 4 went to the city garage this afternoon. It's going to get worked on tomorrow because the generator doesn't work. I'm not sure what happened with that, but they said it should be a quick fix. Staffing wise, we're holding strong at 34 members. We just voted in a new member last night, and we had one that left due to moving out of the area. We have now 22 firefighter ones and 15 EMTs. So facility wise, we're doing well. With the grant, we're moving along quite nicely. The new sign is delayed just because of the weather that we've been having recently, so they can't break ground, but we are still receiving updates as they go on that. The new doors should be in this month, so hopefully between the doors and the key fob system, we'll have that put in by the end of the month. The floors will also be getting done. And then the washer and dryer, we still wait on those. The washer should be here sometime this month, but we haven't heard further details on that. And then to utilize the rest of the grant, we're looking at upgrading some of the electrical in the station to include some of the attic fans to be put in. And then just a couple other things that we can do around the station. Training wise, I have one member that needs to still retest on NREMT for practical and written. Another one that needs to take care of his practicals. One member passed her practicals and then is going to retest her written. And then another member that finished his EMT class, passed his practicals and needs to do his written as well. One of my members, she passed firefighter 1, everything last month. So she's now certified. She was added into those numbers. And then moving forward, I have 2 members that are starting fire officer 2 this month. And then 2 members that are going to be starting fire officer 1 in September, which we are hosting at our firehouse. COVID-19 wise, we remain open. PPE is required on all calls. At a minimum, it's at least mask and gloves. We did vote last night that we're going to go back to mask being optional at the station due to the low volume that we've had. But at a comfort level, if people want to wear them, obviously they can. And I did have one member that did test positive last month and was out for 5 days, but that was non-firehouse related contact. Otherwise, PPE is still doing well, and we now have a 91% vaccination rate at the firehouse. We talked about the radio and dispatch upgrades already. SOGs, they continue working on those again last night. The committee met and they continue their progress with that. Run cards wise, we've been working on ours, getting them updated at least in the meantime, even though there's no set format for what the new CAD is going to utilize to import it. But we should have those done in the next 2 weeks and turn into dispatch, so those are at least updated. And then the last major thing is with the Occam Business Park going in, Deputy Chief Spalding has been attending those meetings, and as it continues to progress, we'll continue being involved in that so we can know what's going on and see what's going inside each one of the buildings. Other than that, if you have any questions, that's all I got.
Questions from the members?
Don't have any.
I don't have any.
I just have one clarifying question because I was just couldn't write fast enough. Did you just say that you voted to change the mask wearing policy in your firehouse?
So no, I misspoke on that one. I was trying to read 2 different lines. So so the mask policy is that we wear it on all calls, and with all the other departments, when we interact with them on scene, we do still wear masks with them. Our policy stands that if we are in the station well separated and not in big groups, then obviously social distancing, you don't wear a mask. Otherwise, if you're in close proximity, you wear the mask, or you either wear the mask, or if you're comfortable, you step aside and then don't get involved with the group.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem.
So, Yannick's on the call. Let's see, Chief Jenks, you're still here? Chief Jenks, you're up.
We had a little bit of a busier month. Well, it's becoming the new norm for us. We had 71 calls, numerous mutual aid calls, either to the city or across the bridge into Lisbon, where we arrived first due for a mobile home fire on a really nice cold day. COVID update, we're probably at about 95%. Hold on a second, Joe. I don't know if we're going to the fire or not. So anyways, we've covered our COVID. We're probably about 95%. We're good with supplies, and we're going to the fire. So if you got any questions, just shoot me an email. I'll answer everything for you. We did have people in-house. We generated about 353 man hours for the storm, and the crews after went out and started on hydrants. So we went on duty about 8 o'clock on a Friday night, and we finished up around 9 o'clock Sunday morning, and crews immediately went out and started on the hydrant detail. Everybody be safe.
You too. All right, moving on to BC DePathy.
Yes, sir. Since Chief Montoya is not here, I'm going to be brief. I'm not sure I don't want to speak on anything that he was working on. I believe that he sent the report to you through email. I'll just touch on, we went on 222 incidents. 13 of them included mutual aid either given or received. 2 of the calls that came up that we worked to mutual aid seemed to work well after the 213 Main Street call were Corning Road, which was a barn fire, and 38 13th Street. All of us had mutual aid. The only concerns that I think we had were some weather concerns more than anything on those. I made some notes while I was talking, a couple things I want to touch on. I believe last week, Alderman Gould asked about the Rotary, if there were any problems with the fire. I was the battalion chief on duty that day. We really didn't have any problems because the police department did an excellent job of rerouting everyone around the area. So that worked out well. One thing I did notice with the Rotary going through it during the snowstorm was it was difficult to plow, and it was a little sketchy going around that corner in any kind of weather. So for myself or for any cars going through it, Public Works had difficulty plowing the Rotary. I don't know if they just need to change their tactics on that, but it was difficult. A couple other things I wanted to speak on. Chief Daly talked about the staffing. He's having trouble with getting police officers. We also had problems with staffing for the fire department. Back when I applied for the job, I took the test with 400 other guys. I think we had 15 this past time. So this is not just with them, but it's with everyone. Everyone's having difficulty. But a while back, we had a recruitment committee that would go out to all of the schools and talk to them, and that was through HR. So that might be something that we want to work on again. Might be joint with the police department, but I know that I'm from Killingly, and they went all the way up there to the high school, and it was well received. You wouldn't think to reach out that far, but they are local. Killingly's only 20 miles away. So it's something to think about for staffing, the recruitment committee again. Sorry about that. And I really don't have anything else unless you have some questions.
Well, I would just say to your last comment about the recruitment in the high schools, I know that for the fire service, it is currently ongoing, at least in my school. The issue is, as the police chief raised, is that you have to be 21 in order to get hired on the police department. But I know that I know that our dean of students is currently doing informational sessions for our students regarding the fire service. So
Yeah,
hopefully
it-
every little bit helps, right? So,
Yeah, I have an 18-year-old at home who has a buddy who's going to school, Rhode Island College, and I'm trying to get him to apply. It's difficult to get the information out there. That's what we're running into. He didn't even know that it was out there until I brought it up to him, and that's just because of personal contact.
Sure.
Which is just crazy. So that may help a little bit. I don't know. And we also have we have 2 guys in the academy right now, and that's an 16 week class. I mean, it is difficult to get from the hiring practice to on the floor. Is a long time and a lot of money. The time frame that you don't have someone here, so it is difficult. So, and that's all I have. So, thank you.
questions for the chief from the committee?
I just want to thank the chief for the update about the roundabout, because that was going to, you read my mind. That was going to be one of my questions for you. So thank you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, roundabout. The rotary is an old school
I mean,
term. But yeah,
It's a circle.
It's very tight and it's a circle.
the big circle downtown.
So when we do have, what is it, 5 more of those going up West Main Street, it's something to be concerned about in the future. And that would be for everyone, for us, police, anyone that's got to go through it. It's tight and something to think about.
Fair point. Okay, anything else for the chief?
No, I don't have anything, Joe.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for all of that information. So our next meeting will be on March 9th, 2022. Depending on what happens with the governor's orders and the legislature and so on and so forth, will determine whether we'll be back in person or continue in a virtual format. I will let everybody know as soon as I know. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 8:33 p.m. Thank you, everybody. And for all those who are out and will be out soon, be safe. Thanks again. And good night.